What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mike Robinson. This is another episode of Let's Take a Walk. I hope everybody had a blessed week. I definitely had a blessed week. Um, Super hot, but it was still cool. Um, as usual, we bring you some of our brightest entrepreneurs and business people. Tonight we have on Shakakan Ellis-Stamper. Did I say that correct?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Um, he is an entrepreneur and a master loctician. Uh, we're gonna. I need to know what that's all about. So I just had to get her, and I just want to take a moment to thank her for coming on the show because I know she could have been doing a gazillion other things, but she saw fit to come on. My little show. But so I really appreciate that. For those of you who may not be familiar with Miss Shaka Khan and her movement, I'm going to give her the floor and kind of let her give a little background on everything that she has going on. Okay? So are you?
Well, thank you, Mike, for having me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about what I do, my little businesses. I am a master loctician. I do locks. What a master loctician is, and I'll let you know about that in just a moment. But I am the owner and CEO of Shaka Khan Hair. Um, I started my business about 6 years ago, which is very new for an entrepreneur. Where I am, I've created a good brand in the last 6 years. I left corporate America. I also am the creator and owner of Naki, which is my hair care line. So I have a hair care line called Naki Essentials for Healthy Hair, which goes along with my loctician status. And I also have a nonprofit called Samples of Love, where we go out to the community once a quarter and give back to the community. So working all three of those businesses for, like I said, about the last 6 years now, and it has been truly a blessing. I kind of stepped out on faith and kept it moving. Um, Want to know what a master loctician is? So a loctician is something that we as a community have dubbed those who specialize in doing dreadlocks. And where we get the master loctician part is that's all I do. I do dreadlocks. Not probably 95% of my clientele is doing dreadlocks. I cultivate them. I study them. I try to go back and see, where the history comes from, how it came up to where it is now. What are we doing in our lives, our society to make our hair grow? Why don't we like them? Why do we like them? So as a master loctician, my life is dreadlocks is what I do. So that's what a master loctician is. And so I was telling you, I don't say that I'm a stylist because although I can do other things in my under my cosmetology license, I don't.
So let's jump right in and start from the beginning. Like I have so many questions just about the locks alone. I have a lot of questions. Um, the history of um, locks. It seems like now that it has become kind of a staple uh, in the Black community. Um, do you think that that locks has been that the implementation of locks in the Black culture has been kind of watered down over the years? Is it more about fad than it is actually culture? Pride of the culture, or how do you how do you see that?
Okay, so um, I think locks have always been around. I know they've always been around. If our hair naturally grows and we don't comb it, this is what we get, no matter what. So you could go to somebody and you can't go anybody. This is what we get. I think that what has happened over the years is that we've learned to accept that our hair does this, and once we accept it, then we've made other people accept it. And yes, I do think more people do it as a fan. I do. I don't think anybody really goes into it. I have probably a third of my clientele do it for spiritual reasons, and I have probably a third that do it for health reasons. Some people can't get other things done, and then a third that just does it because they like it. So I think we're equally separated, but I also think that separation comes depending on what region you're from. People from the north have been doing this for a long time. We down here in the south, I'm in Florida. We just kind of getting on the boat and saying, "Hey, we can wear this to work." So I don't know that it has been watered down. I think that each opinion is its own. I don't think that it has to be religious or spiritual or Not a fad. I don't think it's a fad. Only thing I don't think is I don't think it's a fad because I don't think it's going away. I think locks are here to stay. Only like I said, because we have accepted it now versus what we did before, including me. I started my lock journey 6 years ago when I quit corporate America. I would have done it in corporate America because I had the stigma too. Until I started to learn and realize, hey, this is me. This is who it is. My hair has never been this long in my life, and it grew because this is what it does in its natural state. So I think that we've accepted it more than anything.
So, I mean, what actually got you interested in like personally growing your hair in the lock style? Like,
Okay.
what got
So
you started?
okay, so my mom started her locks like 12 years ago. I thought it was the worst. I'm like, oh, those are so ugly. Would ever do that. I couldn't go to work in them. That was kind of my philosophy. When my last probably year of being in corporate America, within myself, I became liberated. I'm like, you know what? I have been conforming for 20 years to what other people like. Let me do what I like. So I let my hair grow out naturally initially. And so I let my hair grow out to this afro and realized I'm like super tender headed. So combing it was not happening. I was like, I can't comb my hair. I can't do this. It was hurting. And I was like, oh my goodness. So when I, you know, quit my job and said I was going to do hair, I was doing natural hair all over. So I started to study locks. This is what I did. I started to study the word dreadlock. I started to try to figure out where it came from. Why did it have such a negative connotation? Kind of where it was coming from. And when I realized that it was, it wasn't as bad as people were saying, I said, let me just try it. And once I tried it, I'm like, oh, I have to comb my hair. So I started to let it grow. Then I had to realize what to do to one, continue to let it continue to grow, two, to keep it moisturized, to keep it looking neat. I still had to go to work, I still have to go to church. I still had to be out in the world. I couldn't just let it do anything. So that transition from from being loose natural to lock came more from a really personal standpoint of what my head could handle. Now, people ask me, "Oh, are you gonna let it? How long are you gonna let it grow?" And I think now I am attached to them. I can't cut them. I want to. They're they're getting away sometimes, and I go, I want to cut them, but for whatever reason, internally, I just kind of want to see what God's gonna do and see if I honestly said, "Okay, Lord, I'm just gonna see if you're gonna let my hair grow my feet," and it's going. I literally said that. I'm like, and it's kind of going.
So you said 95% of your clientele deals with doing locks. So I
Hmm.
guess needless to say that there is a market. I guess if you could say use that word market, there's a market for that type of that type of hairstyle. What from your journey, just your personal journey, building this particular brand, doing the locks and everything? Did you go through did you go through what everybody else who does what you do go through, or was your journey a little different? Was it a little bit harder? Was it a little bit easier? What were some of the challenges in your
My
process?
my actual lock journey or my entrepreneurship journey?
Your entrepreneurship journey
Okay.
in regards to doing the locks and everything.
Okay, I would say I probably don't have the same journey as most people, only because I came from a corporate structure. So when I started my entrepreneur journey, I knew how to formulate it, to build clientele, to make sure my books were correctly, to brand myself correctly, to do my pricing correctly. I knew how to do that coming from, I worked for Sprint for 20 years. When I left, I was the director of retail for Sprint stores in Florida. So I've had, hundreds of Sprint stores. So I knew how to build a brand. I knew, how to market retail, which is, I think some people, as stylists, people forget that we're marketing ourselves in a retail environment. It's not just doing hair. So when I started, I probably started doing hair itself to build my clientele, and it took me about 6 months to build a full clientele to where I was booked. Then once I in that 6 months, what I did was I took the time to learn the lock journey so that way I could educate people to transition people. And that's why the 95%, the 5% that I can't get to come over, they like, you're not gonna get me the lock. Those people. But I tell them I'm gonna get them. Don't worry, don't worry. But and once you're able to educate yourself and educate someone else, building your brand is super easy because people like and want knowledge. And so the more I talk about, the lock journey, the more I talk about what to do and how to, take care of it, the more people understood it. It was very easy to build a brand. The customer service skills were there, again, coming from a corporate structure. So my entrepreneurship journey probably was a little bit, I was blessed to have it a little bit easier than I see when I talk to other entrepreneurs with the ups and downs. I can navigate quickly and make a change when I know something is not right. If I know my pricing is too high for the market I'm in, or if it's too low, I know I can adjust a little bit faster probably than the normal entrepreneur. And so when the mistake is happening, I can make a change. So I grew my brand probably in a year to where I, and each year, year over year, my growth has probably been, I've probably been about 80% growth year over year. And that's just with the locks. And I think you said earlier there's a market for it. If I could just tell you, on December 1st of this year, I will be opening up a lock bar to where I'll be hiring 6 locticians to work under me, because I have a waiting list of probably on a weekly basis 40 people at least. So is there a market for it? Yes. From an entrepreneurship journey, I have come to realize if you educate people, you can grow in any business, and that's where we are as a society. And I can honestly say COVID helped a lot too, because people can go through the lock journey at home. So people were working from home, and people were like, "Oh, I can do this at home. I don't have to go in." So that was it actually. We want to say there was something positive that came out of us being quarantined. Locks and hair care was one.
Okay. So let's talk about your hair care brand. Um, what was that? What was that birthed out of? I talk to a lot of people who are in your position. They create products within whatever genre they're working in because there is a void or there's something missing within the genre that they're filling with whatever product it is that they're using within the genre, whatever they're doing. What was your product birthed out
It was birth out of the void, but I would say more from evidence-based science. So what I did was the products that I was using on myself, I wasn't using on my clients. I was using the professional things, things you purchase for my clients, but I was using something different for myself. And me and my best friend were using it, and people kept saying, "Well, what y'all doing to your hair? Because your hair growing faster. What are you doing? Why your hair is softer? Your hair is this and your hair is that." And I'm just like, "Oh, I just use my stuff at home." And people are like, "Well, can I get what you're using at home?" And I'm like, "It's so many oils and products and haircut. I'm not getting into that business." I specifically said, "I'm not getting into that business. That is crazy. It's way too much going on." And I'm not one for gimmicks. So I'm not like, "Ooh, this gonna grow your hair." Well, a client of mine one day, we were talking, and she was talking about stepping out on faith with her business, and we are talking about my business, and we are just talking. And when she left, she sent me a meme, and it said, "If you think a market is oversaturated, look down the bread aisle." And had a picture of the bread aisle with all these different types of bread, and all these
of?
bread companies were, yeah, they were all successful. It was like, what do you mean it's oversaturated? So in that December, 4 years ago, December, I put out a little sample package of the 3 products I use, my 3 bestsellers that I use, and I made 20 of them. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna sell these. I'm gonna see if people are gonna buy them. And I put them out there, and I didn't put how much it was, and I also didn't put how many I had. I only made 20. And when I woke up the next morning, I had sold 80, and I was like,
Wow,
oh, okay. And it was just a
wow.
little sample of everything. I sold 80, and I was like, okay, okay, whew, okay. So, and that's what kind of birthed it. And then I tell people, and I know this is probably not, people don't believe me. My formulas come from God. I literally wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, and I know
Hold,
what to
hold,
put
hold on
in
one
each one of my
second.
products. Mhm.
Hold on one second. Your voice is starting to like digitize or something. Like you sound like
Oh,
kind of like a
okay,
robot.
okay,
Hold on
you
one
got
second.
me, got me.
Okay. Talk now?
Better, is it better now?
No, it's still doing it. Hold on.
Let me know.
It
Oh,
might
no,
be
no.
the Bluetooth. It might be.
That better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I reset my Wi-Fi. That's better.
Okay.
Okay. But
So
we where were we talking? Where were we?
we were talking about what your product was birthed out of. What's the name of it again? I don't
Naki.
want
It's
to
my middle. It's my middle name.
Naki.
Yeah, my name is Shakakan Naki Ellis. It's my birth name.
Okay.
So Naki is my product line, and
And you were
Naki was birthed out of me just doing my hair randomly. And like I was saying, now I have 18 different products, including vitamins. And every formula that I do, I made them by hand, and I'm involved in all the formulations. And I was telling you that God actually gives me my formulas because I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning writing, literally, and I go write, and it gives me the oils, gives me what to blend together, and I go do research on them, and that gives me the basically how much to put in what, and I just do it. I've tried to contact the chemist like 4 times, and every time I contact the chemist, they tell me it's not possible, and I make it myself, and it's possible. So that's where we are now with Naki.
that that is truly amazing. And like I was telling you earlier, that's what this platform is all about. Highlighting um, the things and the products, the gifts and the talents that people provide that are kind of like under the radar. It's amazing to me, not just the whole business of doing the locks, but also just the entrepreneurship, just the business mindset that you implemented from coming from corporate America to where you are now. That's really really amazing to me. Do you let me do you realize what you're doing? And what I mean by that is like what you're doing is not it's not uh normal. It's not the norm, I should say. So do you realize what you're doing, or are you just kind of like you just kind of being you at this point?
I would say at this point, I'm doing what God tells me to do, and
Hmm.
I say that because when I first got married, my husband has a very good entrepreneur spirit, and I had none. I was like, I'm gonna work for Sprint, and I'm gonna get my paycheck, and I'm going to go home, and I'm not going to sell anybody anything. I don't want to even deal with that. And I always said I'm not an entrepreneur, and I'm not an entrepreneur. That's just not me. I'm not that. And where I am now, I do look back sometimes, and I'm like, what am I doing? Or if I come up with something new, I'm like, what am I doing? This is not me. So I honestly wouldn't tell you, Mike, that it was me. It's actually God through me, to be honest. Whatever He gives me, I put it out and it's a success. Somebody told me, oh, everything you touch is gold. And I was like, no, that's because it's not me. I promise you. If it was me, it wouldn't go like this. It would definitely go a different route. So as God gives me, I put it out no matter how ridiculous it is. And some things to me are super ridiculous. and and so I'm just doing what he told me to do. I'm literally opening up this salon in December, saying, and I just said last year I'm not going to do it. I'm not opening a salon. I was just going to do me, and that was it. And now I am told to give back to the community by teaching and by getting some other young entrepreneurs the opportunity to come in and learn, figure out my business model, work under me for however long they need, and then go out and do their own. And that's what I'm hoping to do starting in December with the Lot Bar.
That is amazing.
Yeah, thank
Uh,
you, thank you,
what
thank you.
what what role has your family played in this whole process? I often ask people in your position this question, like, is sometimes when you're doing things that are provocative or controversial or just overall out of the norm, you have people who, like I said, you have two sides, and these
Mhm.
two sides, they both love you, right? But one side is saying, hey, this is risky. I know people who have tried this. This is, I would really like it better if maybe you rethought what you're going to do. Like, this is, I don't want you to lose your shirt in all of this. And these are people that love you. But then
Mhm.
you have people on the other side that are saying, hey, you're not big enough. You need to be out in front more. You need to be doing more stuff like Let's Take a Walk. You need to be doing more. Forget that. You need to have your own podcast telling me how people da 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 da. So basically, one group that's telling you you're doing too much, and then you got one group that's telling you you're not doing enough. Have you experienced that in your process?
Oh, I mean, exactly that. When I first started my process, my my one group who are I would say educational minded and corporate America minded say, so you went to college to do hair is kind of what they say. I have a degree in in business management, and I'm actually almost finished with my master's in theology. So they're like, so you go quit your job and do hair. I heard that so much, and I'm like, no, I'm quitting my job to build an empire. It's exactly what I would say, and I was saying that sarcastically actually at the time. I also had the you're too smart to do hair. You're too smart. This is crazy, and you're not going to make a guaranteed paycheck. And I knew all these things, And then I had my husband, who me and my husband have a blended family of 7 children, and I'm like, babe, I really want to do this, and he goes, well, do it. And I'm like, but can we afford it? He was like, no, but do it. He was like, so he was like, just try. He was like, the one thing you can always do is go back to work, and you can, you have to try. You don't know if you don't try. So he's always been in my corner. Like if I come out with something or I wake up 3 o'clock and I'm like, ooh, he's like, okay, what you need me to go to the store and get? He's that person. Whereas I did have the naysayers, and not like you say, not in a negative connotation, in a loving, we want to make sure you're okay kind of naysayers. And then I have my children who just, when they go on social media, they go, you got that many followers? What do you do? And I'm like, oh. So I have kind of a threefold here. My kids are just like, how do you even have followers? And I'm like, so, but my naysayers now are probably some of my biggest supporters financially. They will invest in me now because I think they see that, one, I'm not going to stop. Two, I'm walking in faith. And three, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work hard until I do it. And I'm going to make it make sense to you. And initially, again, I was sarcastic and like, I'm going to build an empire. Now I could confidently say, I'm building an empire, and it's taking, I'm taking baby steps. I'm getting there, but I'm there. My clientele tell me I'm not doing too much. You don't post enough content. We want to see you more. What are you doing? Why don't you have a podcast? Why aren't you talking more in front of the camera? So I have to do better by my social media, but I'm working most of the time and I really don't have time. So I'm trying to get better at doing that. I do these interviews and I love doing them, but doing my own, I'm a little shy when it comes to that. I'm gun shy with that for whatever reason, and I guess it's just not my time to do that.
What have you? What would you say that you've learned about yourself that you didn't know prior to during this whole process? What have you learned about yourself that you may not have been aware of prior to?
I studied musical theater. So being on stage was something I wanted to do growing up. I wanted to be this actress, is what I wanted. I loved being on stage and everything. But doing this, I realized how introverted I am. I do not like being in front of the camera like I thought I did. I want to be behind the scenes. I want to push you out there. I don't want to be on this social media platform. And I thought that's something I would want to do. And I don't know why I have become, I feel like, very, very introverted when it comes to my business. It's my baby, and I'm very protective about my baby. So putting things out there sometimes and having to hear the pushback, I guess, is very, as Erica Badu says, you get sensitive about your art, and and so you don't want to hear nobody. So I'm like, I'm not putting this stuff out there because I don't want to hear nobody mouth. I'm just gonna kind of do it. So what I learned about myself is that I have to do things in my own time, and honestly pray about everything I do. I've always been a Christian. I've always, I grew up in the church, but I never really prayed about so much as much as I do now. I literally pray about everything. Oh, should I do this? Including being on your show. I did. I was like, okay, Lord, do I supposed to be on the show? Especially, and I have to be comfortable with it. And I have come to realize that if I'm not comfortable with it, I just don't do it, no matter what people say. So I think the old Shaka wasn't like that. I think the old Shaka did things to please people. I think the old Shaka, if you said do it, I do it. And if it made everybody happy, that was great. At this point in time in life, I feel like As my babies grow, I'm doing it to please Shaka and God, and that's it. And that's what's making it successful. And that's the biggest thing I think I've learned in this journey.
So, what would you say? What would you say is the best advice you've received during this process, and what was the worst uh, advice you
Mm.
received during this process?
I would say the best advice would be not to worry what others think. I hear that a lot. I hear, don't care what others think, do you? So I think that's some of the best advice because that's what makes me go, you know what? Yeah, do me. Um, some of the worst advice I would say is when people tell me to slow down. I often cringe when I hear people tell anybody, you're doing too much, you need to slow down. Because I think as an entrepreneur or as a human being, we kind of know our bodies and we know what we can handle and what we can't handle. And your body will slow you down if you really need to slow down. And I often say to those people who say slow down, I often say, one, that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, but two, um, I'm working hard now so I can slow down later. That's why I'm working so hard now. I'll be slow. I won't be doing nothing. That's where I want to get to. So to tell me to slow down, I think is what is a was bad advice. And because initially I would listen to it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's too much. I'm not gonna do that. Oh yeah, that's too much. And when I came out with the three products initially, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do three products. And they were like, yeah, because you already doing, 10 heads a day and you don't need to be trying to do product two. And I'm like, you right, I just do these three. And if I had have listened to that again, I ship worldwide 18 different products now. And it's like, why was I slowing down? What was the problem? And I have employees who do that. So I think we gotta be careful with when we give people advice, giving people advice um in the negative connotation versus giving your best advice and then letting everything else fall in place. So I've learned from the advice that people have given me how to encourage the entrepreneur and the small business and our young black, entrepreneurs, black, white, whatever, but our young entrepreneurs. And I encourage, and I've learned that even with my own children, whatever they want to do, let's try it. Now, my older kids will be like, "You didn't let us try nothing. You made us go to college," which I did, I did. But I've learned and I've grown in this process. Like, oh my gosh, I wish somebody had pushed me a little bit earlier than being a little bit later in life.
I think that just from again, like what I said earlier, I think that it's important, like people like you that are, it's very important, particularly because you are a woman of color as well. I think that, you know, up and coming entrepreneurs, people who want to start businesses, not necessarily what you're doing, but just people who want to start businesses, who have a desire or a vision to start businesses, need to see you. You know what I mean? Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we can watch on television and we see these big companies doing things and they seem so far away. It seems so overwhelming. But when you can see images like what we're doing here, you know what I'm saying, more grassroots, you feel like you can reach, I feel like I can reach out and touch you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It makes it more palatable for me. It makes it more authentic for me that I can actually go out and start my own uh lawnmower
Whatever.
business or
Mm-hmm.
fishing business or whatever the case. So I think that it's very, platforms like this and what you do is very important because people not only need to benefit from the services, but also be encouraged by the example that you're actually setting. So that's very, very important. Um, are you a stop and smell the roses type of person, or are you just you finish one project and then it's on to the next? Is
um,
do you feel that it's
hmm.
important to sometimes admire your work, or do you just move on to the next thing?
I move on to the next thing. I don't um I don't look back. I just keep going because in life, especially what's going through a pandemic, sometimes if you stop and smell the roses, starting back up is really hard. or if you take a pause, that's it. And from a marketing standpoint, when you're on an upward slope, you keep going up. You don't stop, because in marketing you're gonna go up and down. In sales you're gonna go up and down. So when you're on that upward swing, you continue to push on that upward swing. So that way, when you get ready to start slowing down, you have some momentum to swing you back, push you back on that upward swing. So I don't think that I'm a stop and look back and smell, because when I stop again, I don't want to work anymore. I want to get to where I don't want to work anymore. I want to comment on what you said about, being grassroots and being transparent and being, accessible. Often talk to my clients, and as I'm growing, they all say, "Oh, don't get so big that you can't, answer the phone, or don't get so big that you don't, want to talk to us." And what I have learned to say, that I may get to where I can't answer everybody. I have a clientele base of 450, so I may can't talk to you. That's why I have extensions of me. But you can rest assured that anybody who is an extension of me is just that, an extension of me. They're able to talk, But I always want to be at a place where I'm humble enough to do, what needs to be done. I'm always willing. That's why even through my nonprofit, I had a small business class that I did through my nonprofit for people who are wanting to start businesses, to give them the information that I had to research. Let me just give it to you. I'm not trying to hide it. I want to share it, so that way we can all, come up with that. And I think that as entrepreneurs, what you're doing, we just have to kind of keep moving along. That big break will come, but in the meantime, we have to just keep pushing forward. And I feel like if you stop and smell the roses, you'll stop, or if you're gonna give up. And there are plenty of times where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. I'm stressed out. Don't have the money. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And God always comes through. And that's why I say, if you pray before you do it, it's the right decision. And although it's hard, it may be hard, or it may seem impossible, or you may be up all night, stressed out about it. In the end, God gets the glory, and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect for you. So I have learned, through this process, that you can't stop and smell the roses right now. You got to keep hustling. You got to keep grinding. We've learned that through this pandemic, time is of the essence. At this point in time. So I often tell my kids, if you're gonna do something, you gotta do it. You can't stop. You can't say what you're gonna do tomorrow. If you want to start a business, start it tomorrow. How? Just start. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to, doesn't have to be perfect, and just start. And everything else will manifest itself. And that's where I am. I'm like, it'll matter, it'll be okay. And if you mess up, the good thing is you can start over again. And you're not starting. If you started here and you got here, you messed up, you're not starting here again, you're starting here, and you keep going. And that's where I am. I'm like, start over. It's okay. People mess up all the time. Stuff don't work. It happens. Start over and keep it moving. But not gonna stop the smell roses right now. I will though when I retire.
That's awesome. How about, like, when we start things, when we start businesses like yourself, um, things like this, and it becomes successful when the proverbial ball begins to roll, and then people start to know your name, and they start to, you know, use your products, and it starts growing more, and so now you come to the point where you can't do it in your kitchen anymore. You have to, like, hey, this person, can you do this? Can you do that? How hard has it been for you, or have you gotten to that point yet where you feel totally comfortable delegating your vision out to others to carry out? Is that
Okay,
is that a
well,
hard process for you? Is that a challenge for you?
for me it was not. So I do have employees for Nike, and I have employees for Shakakan Hair, two separate entities. Nike birth employees through the pandemic, because I jumped up in sales 200% week over week, because people were home, and that's how products, shampoos and everything started birthing. And once that happened, my best friend Tracy, she was not working at the time, and I'm like, hey, I'll pay you to work for Nike. And she said to me, I'll work for free, I'll come and help you. And she came in and she, put her heart and soul into it. She actually kind of took over the whole Naki part, and I was doing the Shakakan hair part. And then I had a friend of mine whose 16-year-old daughter needed a job. She couldn't find a job after the pandemic. Everybody's working, the 16-year-old jobs. So I was able to hire her. My son, he works full time for Nike. So me delegating was not hard because remember, I came from corporate America. That's what I did. I had 17 managers under me with each having 30 employees. So I had the corporate structure. So I talk to other entrepreneurs, and we often talk about the trust of giving somebody your baby. And I know how much to give and how not to give. Only Tracy's probably the only other person that has all my formulas. Everybody else, I still make it. And I do. I had to move it out of the house. It's now at the salon I work at, and then the new salon will have its own almost warehouse. Because my goal with Nike is to build a warehouse to employ people who are having a hard time getting a job. I probably won't, and I don't want to say never, but right now my goal is to not put my product in stores. I'm online exclusive, so that way my cost is in house. One, two, my products are natural, so their shelf life is not long, and so I sell them in smaller increments, and smaller, more frequent increments versus you buying something off the shelf and keeping it in your house for 2 years. You can't do that with what I have, which is why I probably won't be able to go in stores. So my goal right now is to keep it in house. And with that being said, I know I'm going to have to expand to where I have my own warehouse and my own production center. I don't outsource. More people always ask me, how about you just outsource it in, and that way they can make the oils for you and you can send it in. And I don't want to, because I want to keep the potency. I know what other oils do. I want to be able to manage and check and make sure I say it's peppermint in it, it's peppermint, not a peppermint derivative. That's kind of where I am. I'm praying that I never get so big that I can't do that, but I'm praying that I get bigger and able to do that. And that's just something different about Naki versus other companies that do hair care products. With the lock bar, I'm hoping to again make an extension of myself. I've hired people. I have a scheduling assistant. I have an assistant in house that shampoos hair. I have a class on Sunday. I'm going to teach you just the basic, basis of doing retwist and how to take care and maintain hair, because I want people to learn that so that they can come and work and I don't have to do it, and I can just kind of delegate it. Again, that's that retirement plan. That's what that is.
I
So
just I just have so many I just have so many questions. I can't cram them into this one interview. So I'm trying to be wise with the questions that I'm asking. Um, is it how important is it? And I kind of asked this question already earlier, but this
okay,
is kind of like a remix of the question, I guess you could say.
okay, okay.
How important is it that you're a woman of color doing this? Like, are you cognizant of the fact? Are you cognizant of the fact that you're doing this as a woman of color for people of color per se, or or is this just out of the love of the whole hair care thing?
No,
Is
I'm
this
I'm I'm very cognizant that I'm a woman of color doing it, only because I was a woman of color in a non-woman, non-color society for so long.
right?
So to be at a level to where I can talk to other women of color and they can see that we can do this, and it doesn't matter what you look like, whether are skinny and glamorous, or whether you are, I always use body types because locks represent, when you start the lock journey, you have to be super confident in yourself. This is not something that you just started, you look cute, you walk out the door. You gonna go through some emotions and realize, ooh, I gotta do something else besides my hair to make me feel good and look good. So I tell people, as a black woman doing this, and people have seen me go through all the stages, kind of a thing. You have to be super confident in who you are. And what I think I like, I think more from I know I'm a black woman doing the entrepreneur, but I think I like the fact that I'm a black woman doing other black women's hair, building their confidence more than I am entrepreneur. Only because I have women who sit in my chair every day and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. And then when they get up from my chair, they feel like, what did I just do? And we have to. I tell people all the time, call me if you feel like you're having a crisis moment. Call me. We'll fix it. It's okay. You're going to make it through this journey, because you know what? In a year from now, you're going to absolutely love it. I promise. And I think for me, being a Black woman entrepreneur, you probably see it more as, oh, this Black woman is doing a great thing. I see it more as, I'm able in what I do as a Black woman to lift other Black women. Do you see what I'm saying? More than that, I guess until you said it, I guess I've never really considered, oh, I'm a Black woman with a good, doing this for other little Black girls. I hear that a lot. I didn't really look at myself like that. I look at it as that little Black girl, come over here, let me do her hair and show her how her hair can grow, and she don't have to wear a weave, and it can grow really long like this, no matter who she is, no matter what hair type she has, no matter, what she looks like. This is a beautiful, and it grows so different from everyone else's. Nobody else's is the same, and it's just you. And that empowerment sometimes gives you the motivation to do things versus seeing me as what I do. And, oh, you're already there. Sometimes our younger kids think, oh, you're just there. Even my kids, they're like, oh, you made it. I'm like, but you know how many times I'm up at night and y'all sleep, or, what I'm doing to revamp my business, or I'm looking at my numbers, or what I'm doing. So that struggle is a little bit different than me being able to empower you to love yourself so much that you can make it through whatever journey you have to make it. That's what I love more than anything, to be honest.
Hairdressers and bartenders and barbers all share a common thread. You get to hear people's problems. You see people. You're with people at their most vulnerable point, and when you're talking about their parents and their, their hair, whatever. How do you deal with the whole psychological aspect of it? Like, does that ever, is it a challenge to kind of like not compartmentalize some of the things that you're hearing and some of the feelings that people express to you, and pastors too? You know what I mean? I always find it interesting how you're in a business where you're providing a service for people, but they become so comfortable with you that they'll share some of their innermost secrets, or they'll share, what I'm saying, some of their weaknesses, their fears, their shortcomings, and some of the things that they're going through. Is that a challenge in your process, and how do you not bring clientele home with you, so to speak?
I never felt like it was a challenge, because for me, again, I'm probably a little bit different. It gives me the opportunity to minister. Bottom line, it's the best opportunity to minister without throwing the Bible and church at people, per se. Okay, so depending on where they are in their life, I've had clients the first time they meet me, they literally tell me their life story, and sometimes they just want you to listen. I've learned to listen sometimes. And sometimes they want your advice. And again, some clientele are definitely, I feel like I've known them for 100 years, and I get invited to their weddings and stuff, and I've probably only known them for 6 months, So
Right.
they're born to, I think for me, I don't think that I bring it home. I don't think I've ever bring it home, only because honestly, I am so business minded. Probably what's on my mind most of the time that I'm not talking with somebody is something to do with my business. So as much as there, I hear it, we talk about it. It's kind of gone until the next time I see you, and then we talk about it again from there. So I've never had the I know pastors probably is on a whole different level, but I don't think that I don't think I compartmentalize things, but I think that's also me as a person, because I don't do it with my kids either. So I think that's just me as a person. So I love it, because I feel like, again, it gives me an opportunity to minister, to give my opinion. I've had clients tell me all the time, we should just, set up the camera and the camera and the microphone and just go live on the conversations we have sometimes. And they're like, you should just give advice. And my counterparts in the shop, they tell me all the time, you should probably just give advice. And it's not just giving advice. It's just, we talking at the time. And but for me, I'm also personally able to let that go. And now we're going on to the next. And again, that may come from a corporate American standpoint where you have to leave work at work, and once you get home, you have to be at home. So that's what I say. I'm not a worrier. So once we talk about it, once we pray about it, if you want to pray with me at the shop, we pray. You out, you feeling good, I'm feeling good, we gone. That's kind of, you send me an update via text, or I might check on you, or we talk about it again next month when I see you. Most of my clients I see every 4 to 6 weeks. So hey, what happened? And we kind of go from there. Relationships, anything. We talk about it all. So I've only had one time, maybe I had a client who was in a crisis, and she called me in a crisis, and that bothered me a little bit, but that was because it spilled over outside of the shop. But that's one time in literally 6 years. So I just
You're
haven't had
doing
that.
that. You're doing that robot thing again.
Let me see. Let's see. Is that better?
Nope.
Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? I think it's my Wi-Fi lag in here. Let's see. Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Nope, all
it's
the way
still
off.
kind of distorted. Shout out to Nicole Vincent. Shout out to my second mother, Mary Simmons, in the comment section. I appreciate y'all coming on and checking us out.
Are we better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So let's talk about nonprofit. Your nonprofit. Tell us a little bit about the nonprofit organization.
Okay, Samples of Love. That was birthed through my clientele traveling so much before the pandemic. They would bring me samples. I asked them to bring me any samples from the hotels that they have left over, and I would put them in baggies, and that's what I would give out, like, to homeless people. If I would have sample whatever in my car, and that's what I would hand out. That turned into, of course, I turned into a nonprofit, and what I did was decided each quarter I would do something different, for the community. So what we have done, we've collected suitcases for foster kids. I heard Tiffany Haddish one time say, as a foster child, they put your stuff in a paper bag or a plastic bag, and she used to sell her dresses to purchase suitcases for foster children. So I did a suitcase drive, and we went and gave it to all the foster care systems here in the 3 counties here. We've done a sock drive. We just gave away 350 book bags for back to school and 300 bags of food. With I had nail techs out there, so we gave away a lot of that in some of the communities here. So Samples of Love is my way of showing love to the community, and not just for people just in need. Like I told you earlier, we did a workshop, a small business workshop, and just gave the basics to starting your business. How do you start? I did a 6-week workshop on that. So Samples of Love, literally what I feel that the community needs right then, or if somebody calls me and tells me, hey, we need these things. Because of the many people that I meet a day, I feel like I'm a great connection to bring those gifts in and those talents in, and spread it out to the community. And I always get so much support and love with Samples of Love. I had 42 volunteers come out to this last event, and so that was like amazing. And so that's what we're doing. And it has just, quarter over quarter grown to just us giving whatever is the community needs at the time. We give that back to the community. So that's my baby. I love Samples of Love. I love seeing people happy, and I love giving away stuff. Like my husband's like, you just give away 3 hairdos if you could. I probably would. So, that's just me. So that part I love. And I love the way the community comes together to help with that. You would not believe how many people want to help. And I figure if all of us give a little bit of something, then it turns into a lot and we can give it out. Nobody has a whole bunch, but if we all give a little bit, I asked everybody for one book bag literally, and ended up getting 350 book bags. So it was amazing.
Wow. So tell me, what is the most common misconception that people have about you, that you've encountered?
People say they think I'm stuck up. I don't know why. They like, oh, you talk. That's the most common misconception. I like to talk. I am very friendly. I'm very giving, loving. And I think people sometimes are afraid to talk to me. I have no idea why, but that's the most misconception. I think that I'm quiet. I'm not. I will talk to you. My clients will tell you, even my introverted clients, oh, you're gonna talk to me. We're not gonna just sit here and be quiet. We're gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna get to know you, you gonna get to know me. So if you don't talk to nobody else, you gonna talk to me. And they'll all tell you that. What y'all you gonna bring a book? No, we're not gonna read a book. You gonna talk, we're gonna have a conversation, we go, bond. I'm in your head, we're gonna bond. So that's what I get a lot.
Who were you surprised to find out knew about you, or you were on their radar? Who were you most surprised to find out?
Um, hmm, I don't know. I think I'm more surprised to find when people fly in from out of state.
Mm,
That's where more than anything, like just everyday people will. I had a guy who drove from New Jersey, him and his friends, just to get his hair done. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've been, wanting to see you and meet you. So I think more than anything, more than a more than I have a couple of celebrities, but I can't name, but as far as just everyday people, more than anything, I am more surprised to have people honk at me in the streets, or I go to the doctor's office and they're like, oh my God, I follow you. That is more surprising to me than anything. I'm like, okay, so I gotta get dressed when I leave the house, so I find myself sometimes literally hiding in the store if I, because I'm like, oh God, they recognize me. Versus literally probably 8 months ago, I didn't have that as much. But after the pandemic, I'm like, whoa, people, recognize me. So I think that's my most surprising thing, is to have be on other people's radar. Period. People who I don't know. That's
that
more surprising to me.
is very, very dope when something that you do in the middle of the night in your kitchen, in your bathroom, in your bedroom, whatever, on your laptop, whatever, creates. It's so dope to create something that people actually support and get behind. And I'm not talking about people that know you. That's gonna be like, if you had peanut butter in that can, they was gonna
Yeah,
support you. But I'm talking
yeah.
about, people like you said from other areas. They hear about you and they created it. You have created a domain for a certain thing. I think that that's super, super dope, and I think that that's so crazy. Like
Yeah.
somebody
Me too.
somebody somebody creates something, a song on their laptop,
Hmm.
and then the next
You
week
hear it.
it's like number one on Billboard. But I just did that like 2 o'clock in the morning on my laptop. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's so crazy. That every time I hear that, it just curls my toes.
It's
It's just like
unbelievable. Definitely
you know.
unbelievable. I've been watching like a TikTok or something, or a Instagram video, and I look in the background and I see my product on somebody's dresser, and I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God, and I'm snapping it, or somebody sending me something, say, is this your product on such and such, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's definitely a wow moment. Even you contacting me, I was like, why me? I honestly was like, why you want to interview me? He had these singers. I saw the people you had on, and I'm like, why is he asking me? So like I said, I appreciate you too. So I'm still in a wow moment every time it happens.
Yeah, I'm absolutely led. I feel led to have the people that anybody that I reach out to. I feel led. You know what I mean? I'm not just randomly pulling whoever, however, whenever. You know what I'm saying? It's literally I hear that voice in my head saying, "Okay, this is somebody who represents what you're trying to do on here. This is not celebrity gossip. This is not
Correct.
you know what I'm saying, some type of political thing where we bash the president and the government and all that kind of stuff. It's just really highlighting people who really are, like I said, doing things and in my mission statement it says impacting culture and
Love it.
community. You
Love
impact
it.
culture and community by way of your God-given gifts as well as the products that you provide. And so I think that there aren't enough platforms for people like you that are doing things that are actually impacting the people. And what's so crazy is that the people that are that we look up to, that we are using the products that you provide. You know what I'm saying? And they are
Yeah.
famous in part because of something that
Yeah.
that you
That you
that
do.
you provided to them, but
Mhm.
yet they're getting the attention while you sit, you know what I'm saying, where you sit,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I understand that everybody has their due season and whatnot like that. But
Hmm.
like I said, that was one of the main missions of, this platform, to highlight, dope people who are doing things, like I said, that impact culture and community. I think that's an awesome
Hmm.
thing. Um, this is my
I
last
appreciate it.
official question for you.
Okay. Okay.
It's a question that I ask all my guests, and if you've
Okay.
been watching, you probably know what this question is going to be. But I'm going to give you this question. You just take a moment, you think about it for a second, and then give me the most honest and transparent answer that you can give me. All right,
Okay.
you ready?
Yes.
The question is, what would have to happen in your life, if it hasn't happened already, for you specifically to consider your life a success? What does success look like for you specifically?
I feel like, and I contemplated this answer. And no, I love the question. Um, Success is who I am now. Success is not what I have done, not what I have accomplished, not what I've done in the past. Success is, for me, the woman I have become at the age of 46. Um, Now I am more confident in myself. I've grown. I feel like I can talk. I feel like my relationship with God is somewhere where I never expected it to be. And so I feel like I have reached success so much that it scares me sometimes. And
Mhm.
so when God shows out and shows me more, I'm okay with that because I love where I am now in my marriage, in my, with my family, with my children, with my career, with what I've done. So honestly, Mike, I think I've reached success because I am so confident in where I am now, um, within all aspects of my life, and I'm okay. So don't know, what God has in store for me, but I can promise you that I am already successful.
Wow, awesome. Okay. If I'm an aspiring loctician
Hmm.
or an aspiring business owner or entrepreneur, or I want to start a nonprofit, or I just generally have more questions, you know, for you, or I need advice, whatever. And I'm speaking in a broad sense as far as the
Hmm.
people.
Okay.
Um, how can they get in touch with you?
Please, please, please DM me at the Real Shakakan on any social media platform. That will lead you to my other ones. But on YouTube, on TikTok, on um, Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, if you type in the Real Shakakan, I'll come up and you can DM me. And I promise you, it's a live person answering. And if you specifically want to address me, say that, and the person who handles my social media sometimes she'll definitely reach out, and I will definitely answer back. I love answering back, so please don't hesitate to ask any question. I am very transparent and would love for people to learn. So at the Real Shaka Khan is my handle on everything, even Nike. So Nike, if you type in at the Real Shaka Khan, Nike will come up also, so you'll see it.
I lied to you. I got one last question.
Okay, okay, okay.
The nonprofit, the the locking, the hair products,
Hmm.
the education factors that you're doing, that are helping people. But all the things that you're involved in, and all the things that you're cultivating and creating. Um, what do you want people to take away as a person? Me, I'm sitting back, and I got a picture of everything that you're doing right now. I'm looking at a a screen of all the things that you're accomplishing and all that you're doing. What do you want me to take, or what do you want me to take from seeing everything that you do? What do you want me to go away feeling about you or towards you?
That if you
What,
educate yourself in anything and you do what you love, it'll be successful. You gotta do what you love. And I say educate yourself because doing what you love doesn't mean you know how to do it already. It means that you're willing to put forth the effort to learn how to be the best at whatever that thing is, and you put your heart into it, and the money and everything will come along. I want people to see that. If you say I'm going to be the best apple collector, I'm collecting apples, then I'm going to educate myself on these apples. I'm going to tell you why you should help me collect these apples, and we're going to collect these apples and make a whole bunch of money collecting these apples. That's exactly what I want you to see. I want you to see that these three entities are different entities. And these are three things I'm passionate about. And I put education and time and I focus on that. Like I told you, I'm always thinking about that. How can I make it better? How can I make sure you understand that it's for you? And I want you to see that as a person to say, when you're looking back at that board, you like, okay, she must love to do hair, or she must love to, figure out how to make products, or she must love giving out stuff for people, within this nonprofit. And how did she start that? She educated herself, and I'm continually educating myself, and then I'm giving it back to the community. And that's what I want you to do too. I want you to educate yourself, and then you figure out how to make it successful, and then you give it back to the community. And that's how we're going to create this whole generational wealth, and everybody will be good. That's what I want you to get out of it.
you said a mouthful. Is there anything in the building of your empire? Is there anything that you found that you liked that you didn't know that you liked before in the process? And what I mean by that is I'm a music person.
Mhm.
I sing a little bit or whatever. And so when I was doing it, it was very hard to find musicians, find people who produce and make tracks and stuff. So I ultimately learned how to do. I ultimately, out of necessity, had to learn how to create my own background music, tracks, beats, whatever.
Okay.
And in that process, I realized that I really like producing. Like I really like writing and producing. But that was
Okay.
something that I didn't really realize in the intro of doing it. Is there anything in this process that was a surprise to you that a skill that you learned or that was ended up being fun for you that you didn't realize in the beginning, like the promotional side or just, whatever it was
Education. It's the educational piece. I like explaining to people why this hair oil works, why it doesn't work, why your hair growing, why your hair is not growing. It's the educational aspect. I've never considered myself an educator or a teacher, to teach people. I've never known how to break it down enough for people to understand. And ironically, that's what I get the most. People want me to teach them. And when I explain it to them, they go, oh, that makes sense. And I like that response. I love that response. I love when people go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And I'm like, oh,
mm,
just to get a little. So I think I've become this educator that I wouldn't have ever in a million years thought I would be. And that's where I see myself going next. That's like the next piece of this empire is to educate those on how to make these oils and or how they work and or I educate you so you can educate the next people. The lock piece of it, I'm realizing that I like to have these classes. I love to tell people the why on things. So I've always been scientific minded, so I like the science behind it, but I love the educational piece. And I think if we educate ourselves, we're unstoppable in anything. Again, even in them apples. If you collect the apples, educate yourself on them apples. Find out how to make that skin red. That's what I
right,
think.
right.
Yeah. So I'm
Listen,
loving
I'm
that.
sorry. I keep having this. Listen,
I'm good.
um,
I'm good. I'm good.
is there, as far as the locks are concerned, is there a right and a wrong way to do it? And why I asked that Like, I see a lot of dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get the dreads,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks cool for the first couple years, but then you start to notice that their hairline like recedes
Move that. Yeah.
or whatever.
Okay.
Um, is that because they're doing it wrong, or is that just the natural evolution? What's that all
Okay, so that's threefold actually. Yes, they can be done wrong. You until they're done wrong, until you see the right way, you'll realize they're done wrong. There can be too much tension placed on the hair. The parting for your hair density could be wrong. It could be too small, too large, makes the locks too heavy. You can not be drinking enough water, so your body's not nourished enough. You cannot be taking your vitamins, eating your vegetables. So now your hair is brittle
about?
because it's nourished. Internally you're not good. You could be sick. You could be taking medicine. You could be taking something that's not, conducive to your hairline. The hairline could be going back because it's hereditary, and that's just your daddy, your granddaddy, your grandma, everybody hairline like that. So that's what's happening. Um, I hear that a lot. I don't want to get dressed because I don't want my hairline to push back. Well, if it's gonna do that hereditarily, it's gonna do it with or without locks. You just notice it because you had locks. So
Right.
that's gonna happen. You have so there are so many factors of why that's happening. You may need to go to the dermatologist. You might have a scalp issue, and now your hair follicles are clogged up, and they give you, whatever stimulation you need to keep that hair growing. So it could be that's really very broad. And because there are no schools for locks, I am considering petitioning the state of Florida to pick up my lock class. So that way it's incorporated into the cosmetology class. There is no class for locks. Everybody
Mm.
who's doing them, we're doing it from based on our own research and our own, experiences. But there is a science behind it. And sometimes the science may be hereditary. So when you see that, it could be from different factors, honestly. But I think people forget that your internal makeup is it tells what your hair is going to do. If you're not healthy, your hair is not going to be healthy. Bottom line, if you're not putting, I just did a video a couple days ago on hydration, and people were saying, "Does it count? I didn't hydrate my hair," and I did a video and said, "Okay, I'm counting. If you drink water like really good every day, you don't have to externally hydrate. I don't drink water like that. I have to externally hydrate, my hair."
Mm.
So that way it stay, it doesn't pop off at the root. It keeps it, I put stimulants in it to keep it growing, things like that. You need stimulation. Just like you put moisturizers on your face,
Mhm.
that your scalp is a part of that skin. If you got dry skin in your face, yes, you're gonna have dandruff. You have dry skin. People go, I don't know why I have dandruff, and I'm like, is your face dry? Yeah, that's why. So it's the same. So I think
Right.
we don't think of our hair. That's the educational piece from when it comes to locks. So yes, I know locks in its natural form. Again, if you don't comb your hair, it will do this all by itself. But for it to be healthy, maintained, grow really long, things of that nature, you do have to put a little bit work in it, just like you do your nails or your skin, or you have to motion your legs and your knees so you're not cracking. Your scalp need the same thing. So same thing. I think we forget sometimes when it comes to our hair, we're so used to processing it to get it to where it is. Whereas in our natural state, we got to figure out what our body's doing to help keep it healthy. So don't be putting the misconception of your hairline gonna go back, because it shouldn't on it, all things considering. If you're hereditarily, if you're all your other people like that, I mean, it may happen. So we go there. So I always ask when people, when I do consultations, said my hair is thin. I'm like, well, what's your mama and your daddy hair like? And they're like, oh, they ain't have none. So at a certain age, it might happen. So we got to make sure all things considering. So that's a very, very broad statement.
Wow. Do you think that there's enough? Do you think that there's enough out there, enough information out there for people to who have locks and wear their hair natural? Do you think that there's still there's enough information out there accessible to people, or is it still a situation where people are just kind of like doing their own thing, self-medicating, if so to speak, and just kind of like winging it?
I think there's a lot of information out there. I think that I often tell people get off YouTube. I often say that because sometimes the information out there is again is self made. It's just kind of what worked for them, not that information that doesn't work for people as a whole. And I think there is a room and a platform for formal education, not just telling you, hey, put this on your hair, but telling you put this on your hair because you live in this region, because your hair is this, and because your skin is this, because you're this age. That kind of information needs to come out. So the in-depth information of the why is not out there, but there's a lot of block information. Again, I often tell people, get off. I'd be like, get off social media, stop. Because what they're telling
Right.
you is propaganda to get you to buy whatever they want you to buy. But as far as just proper education, no, that's what I was supposed to be doing, and I'm trying to get there. That's what most of my clients want me to do is put out the why. I can kind of explain why things are the way they are. I think that's what needs to be put out there, and I think we need to, as entrepreneurs, as consumers, we need to sometimes say, okay, you want me to do this, but why? And you can't tell me just because my hair grow. Why does that
Right.
make my hair grow? And I think that's what we need to do as consumers is kind of challenge some of these things that are out there on social media so that way we make people explain. And some people know that it works, but they can't tell you the why. And I think if somebody can't tell you why something works, you probably should wait on using it.
Mm, wow. Okay. I promise you, I'm done. Don't try. I'm
That's
done.
okay. That's
But
okay. We're good.
I want to thank you again for coming on the platform. I appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge with with the listeners and the watchers and all those who are personally invested and those who just want to learn. You know what I mean? I appreciate you taking the time out. Like I said, I know you got so many things that you could be doing. Your empire is growing, and as we're speaking, it's growing. And so I know you have a lot of things to attend to. But I again appreciate you, and I look forward to having you on again in the future
Okay.
to kind of see what the progress
Okay, okay. When
what
you have
progress is
your
going.
studio and you invite me into the studio, we had the lighters and makeup, then I'll be there. So
Yeah,
I'm waiting on that.
yeah.
That's where you gonna be at. I'll be like,
Yes, sir.
okay, I gotta
Yes,
get dressed
sir.
now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
I
I
appreciate that. I received that.
yes, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, I thank you.
Okay,
Um,
thank you for having me. I
you have
appreciate
an
it.
awesome weekend, and
Okay,
I wish blessings on everything that you have going on, all your businesses, the nonprofit, and everything, your products, everything that you have going on. I
thank you. I
pray blessings
appreciate
on
it. Okay, and I
all right?
appreciate you and then bless you. God bless your business too. I know it's gonna be a success. I'm not playing. I know we're gonna be in that studio.
Yes, sir. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you. Good
You
night.
too.
Good night.
Good night. There you have it, another interview in the can. I wanna again thank Miss Shakakan Ellis for coming on the show and sharing her wealth of knowledge of hair and business and entrepreneurship. I think it's so important that our people have examples, the most examples that they can of people doing things that impact culture and community through their businesses, through their gifts, through their talents, through just the overall spirit to serve. Um, it's always an awesome thing, and I love love um, highlighting and exposing and giving people their roses, and hopefully um, introducing them to newer audiences and new customers, and making overall connections, across the board. That's one of the joys that I have in doing this platform. Um, again, as usual, I want to thank everybody that came on to watch and learn and comment. Shout out to Miss Terry. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to my second mom, Mary Simmons. Love you. Um, Shout out to everybody who liked and commented. I really appreciate it. It really you don't really know how this really it really encourages me to keep going, because sometimes it can be frustrating sometimes because you feel like maybe you should be further along, but I I I really appreciate the support, and I really appreciate the well wishes when people see me and they recognize me from the show and they ask me about guests and different stuff like that. That's really dope to me, and that's really awesome. Um, but I'm not gonna talk you out of death. But I want to thank y'all again for coming on. I will be back next Friday. I hope that you will mark that on your calendar and check us out. Um, Outside of that, I want you guys to have an awesome weekend. I'm going to water country tomorrow, so pray for me. um, I want to, encourage you guys to have an awesome weekend and be safe and wear your mask and social distance and all that stuff. Um, I absolutely will be wearing my mask, even though we'll be getting plenty wet and all that, but it is what it is. But with that being said, I wish you guys a good night, and I hope that you are blessed tonight and going forward. All right, let's take a walk.